Hello, welcome. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our episode 9 of Voiced, where we are trying to bring four pillars of the education system together, that is, learners, educators, parents, and job creators, policymakers, education leaders, on thinking and sharing our views on how do we recreate, redesign, rethink the education system, which should be life oriented. And before I go ahead and introduce you to a wonderful panel we have, as always, we'll just have a minute of silence to gather ourselves and be in the present moment. So please join me in the minute of silence. Welcome back. And we are actually trying to bring some amazing panelists from across the world on this podcast series called Voice. And I am your host, Archana. I'm mother of two self learners and trying to walk on a path of zero outsourcing for education, food, and wellness. Doing multiple experiments with my life for last many years with my wonderful co-host here, Mick from US, but he is currently in Thailand. He is a disruptive educator, creative technologist, and a favorite teacher of students from across 20 countries across the globe. And I am so happy and fortunate to have him as one of the co-creators and co-host in this beautiful podcast series we have been holding for last 3-4 months. Welcome, Mick. And
Thank you for having me as always.
yeah, and our first panelist here is my young learner Salaj here. He is from Bay Area, San Jose, and he is a learner. He is also Boy Scout and camper. He is an adventurous soul. Let me tell you this. I know him personally, though I haven't met him, but I his mom is my dear friend sitting in Bay Area. The favorite quote he has is, take a moment every morning when you look in the mirror, ask yourself, are you committed or are you not? Wonderful, Salaj. It's a beautiful quotation, favorite quote you have, which shows how mature you are for your age. He is also eighth grader participating in scouting, basketball, and taekwondo, second degree black belt. And he loves camping, watching NBA games. Happiness for him is always having a good health, which is very, very important, being close with family and having a smile in your on your face at all the times. Wow, wonderful. Why the question he is currently holding is, why is the curriculum structured upon specific and useless methods? Wow, what a question. Like, that's why we all are here, to see like what are the questions we have and how we can you know create the solutions for all these questions we are all holding. So welcome, Salaj. Our second panelist as a parent here is a very dear friend, Sangeeta Shankar, and she is a wonderful human being. I have personally met her. She was in my hometown 3 years back. Wonderful, very beautiful family. With She is a mother of two self-learner daughters. Her elder daughter is already an entrepreneur, and she has been doing natural cosmetics for like last 4 years or more than that. Shrut Kirti is her name. She Sangeeta is also a corporate recruiter, a blogger, and a classical dancer. And she's so close to the roots, and like the way she has been raising her wonderful, beautiful daughters. It's something to like learn from, like being a mother. The favorite quote she has is, "Don't take life too seriously. Nobody gets out alive anyway." I love that, Sangeeta. And she's passionate and experienced in learning and development. She has been working a lot with homeschooling communities in India as well as in US. She also writes. She is an avid writer and also loves to pen down her thoughts through her blogs on Medium. Multi-talented HR and recruiting professional with global experience in different industries here. She also have as a family they have also pursued interest-led, passion-led, freedom-led learning all along, and she actively contributes to the field of alternative education through webinars and supporting different like parents and learners across the globe, I would say. So welcome Sangeeta. The question she is holding is, can we dream of learning and living without school as the default way to be? Yes, we are all here to create that world. The second question is, how can I give back to the homeschooling community, which you are already doing, Sangeeta. I know what amazing things you have been doing. So welcome again.
Thank
Our
you.
yeah, our third panelist is here is Everett Hill, and he is a wonderful educator. I know for past 4 to 5 months, Mick and we have done a lot of sessions together on like brainstorming sessions together on how do we work on creating, rethinking, and reimagining the education system. And he brought some wonderful ideas on those calls as well. He is a educator, physical and health educator, and at Concordia International School, Shanghai. I believe, Everett, you are also from US. I'm not sure if that is true, but you are in Shanghai right now. The favorite quote he has is, "We are in love with the influence of power when we should be in love with the power of influence." Wow, what a beautiful, the the wordplay here, but so much, like very insightful quote here. He is an experienced lifelong educator currently working at a private school. He works in education, been both in public and private settings, international schools, which also gave him a very different perspective when he discusses what could be, the education, new kind of education. My children, his children have grown up as third culture kid for the past 10 years, and he loves the opportunities we have to explore the world around us. Wonderful. The questions he is currently holding is, under what conditions will education worldwide truly shift to learning based on what is the best interest of children? Yes. And the second question he is holding is, when education finally makes the massive shift to what we believe it should be, what will that look like from a perspective of future growth and equity? I love these questions, and I think most of us here are holding the same questions. So welcome, Everett. Uh, the fourth very important pillar of the education system is, we call them policymakers or job creators, professionals who have been like leading the place for from educational perspectives. So Rakesh is a very well-known name in the Indian community here. He comes from the background of IIM Bangalore, studied there himself. Plus, he has been actually mentoring and coaching professionals, and also taking some guest lectures at different very premium institutes of India. Uh, I love Rakesh in your LinkedIn profile, as well as your profile is like always writes that nobody, he is nobody, and I just really love that title for yourself. He is a founder of a School of Meaningful Experiences. I know Rakesh for last 3 years. We started connecting on LinkedIn and sharing our ideas on what kind of education we should be designing for our teens and youths. And he's also, as I already told, that um, visiting faculty in IIM and IIMs and corporate and startup mentor. The favorite quote he has: "The more you take, the less you have." Wow, lovely. By Ogwe in Kung Fu Panda. Yes, I love that film. After taking the plunge from the corporate world in 2008 to follow his passion, the thing which has grown is he says that is my collection of pens and notepads. His hunger to read and learn, his love to teach and write, and his time with family and friends are most important. As his happiness and faith, everything else has decreased, like his bank balance, weight, stress. I just love this writing about your profile. He read a story to his kids every night before they sleep. He just do a lot of activities, bicycle, yoga, right, and earn a fraction of what he used to be, but a million, like, he has made his lives a million times better than before. He founded School of Meaningful Experiences in 2019 that offer leadership programs based on our 6C philosophies for all age groups from 9 to 45 years. He has authored 4 books already. Plunge, also he's running the podcast series with the same name. Then second one is Seek Finding Your True, What to Say and When to Shut Up, and Public Speaking Kaleidoscope. He recently launched his online course on edX and IMBX, also called Effective Business Communications. Yeah. And questions he is currently holding is, how do I make education journey less toxic for learners? Yes, that's what we are here to learn from you, Rakesh. And welcome, and we are so privileged and honored to have all of you here on this episode. And I'll hand it over now to Mick so he can start asking his questions. So welcome, Mick.
Thank you, Archana. Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have you here today. We're going to go through 3 rounds of questions. We keep our questions the same on every episode because the interesting thing is seeing the commonalities between the answers, but also the differences based on your own unique perspectives and individual experiences. And so, as always, we start with our learner because learners are who we're all here for and who we're all here to not just help, but listen to. And not only do they deserve a seat at the table, they deserve a seat at the head of the table. So, Salaj, welcome. We're happy to have you. Our first question is going to go to you. What do you think about the structure of education currently? How do you think it benefits students' lives? And how do you think it might harm students' lives?
So for the structure, I think that it is very well structured so students can understand concepts better and they can have a good detail of what they're learning. But sometimes it could be too structured. And what I mean by that is that they don't allow students to go more in depth in different concepts because they're so focused on understanding one concept at a time. And then usually when you're understanding one concept, there's multiple ways to approach it. But I feel like they more teachers morely are more connect upon each method instead of using one main method and then changing the subject. Like in my school, what teachers usually do is that when they're approaching a problem, they usually use multiple methods. What I think is more beneficial is using knowing those methods, but mainly using one and then focusing on a new topic, so then we can expand more on learning different topics. So a pro is that people can understand it, but a con is that it moves too slowly, and it would be more beneficial if we can go faster, so students can learn more, but at least understand the concept as well.
Great, Salaj. Yeah, you touched on a couple really important points. It's often said that curriculums go an inch deep and a mile wide, meaning they don't let you go very deep into a concept and boom, the next day it's on to the next one, and the next one. And also just approaches, right? Often the teacher teaches you the one approach that they know and that they learned. But as you stated eloquently, there's often multiple ways to approach one different subject. And a lot of teachers can't and don't embrace that, right? There's one way to do it in their estimation, and that doesn't give really bright kids like you the opportunity to come up with some different approaches and some different ways to look at things. So thank you for kicking us off with a great answer, Salaj. Our parent is always our second pillar that we speak to each week. Sangeeta, thank you so much for being with us. Our first question for you is, why do you think parents have become more obsessive and protective about parenting, especially in this generation?
Yeah, I think it's a product of them being factory school themselves, and it's a very specific thing that you see mainly that started with our own parents' generation, right? At least in post independence in India, we started with scarcity mentality that was then taken and kind of embedded very deep into each and every learner. So our parents came out panicky, thinking that if they didn't follow the set path, then they're going to fail, and they passed it even more to us. And I think all of us, right, all of us parents who went through our education system we're completely removed from our own traditional roots. We're completely removed from ancestral knowledge. We're completely removed from any kind of community building, where we take our grandmother's knowledge, our grandparents, our communities' ways of being and thriving, and implementing it in our outlook towards life. So we were told that anybody who cannot speak English is uneducated, is stupid, is ignorant, and we were told that the only way to follow success is to look towards the West. And so when I say the West, I don't mean physically, but the mental way, or what should I say, attitude towards whatever could be in terms of like career. So that's why when I got out of college, everything that was, good to be was either be an engineer or a doctor, right? And that's where my own self-learning started, because all I wanted to be a mother when my baby was born. And, I was obviously looked upon as, a crazy person who's not succeeding. So what happens is then, parents are so keen on attaching themselves to the success of, model of success, that obviously then they feel that their way is the only right way, and so they're not like ready to kind of like share it, that responsibility with anybody else who thinks otherwise. I think that's why they're so obsessive. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
scarcity.
those are great points, Sangita. I think it's generational and it's cyclical. And so what happens is we're caught in this cycle that just keeps being repeated generation after generation of what to place value on
Mm.
and what to worry about if you don't think that those values are being met.
Yes.
And as we know, those of us who, think a little bit differently about what education can be, those are misplaced values. And then those are transposed onto the kids, and those pressures put on the kids. And then they don't know any other way when they grow up, but to continue to do that when they grow up and have kids of their own. So yeah, great points. It's kind of, parents are conditioned, and they're conditioned because their parents were conditioned, and they are going back generation after generation. Thank you so much for that. Our educator this week, Everett, who, as Archana mentioned, we have had brainstorming sessions together. These are the questions I got to answer when I was a panelist, Everett, so I'm interested to see what you think about these. They were very fun for me to answer as an educator. Your first one, what are the things that you love about education in its current form, and what are some of the things that you hate or at least strongly dislike?
Well, following Sagita, that's a tough one to follow. She has some great answers. I really liked her comments about community. I know, because one of the things I love about education is a sense of community, the group of people that are together. But something that I think is lacking is what she touched on, is that generational piece, where we don't connect into the community, into the families, into the depth of knowledge and just wealth of wisdom that's out there. Even this year, my students have really pointed out that they miss that sense of community, because we're back online and we're 7 weeks into it. And that's the number one thing they miss, is just being face-to-face in a group. The other thing I really enjoy is the diversity. I work with a very, very diverse group here, as well as I did in the States. And the connection with just the diverse nature of students and families and backgrounds and experiences. There's a lot of power in that. And it's something that we don't tap into as well as we could. Some of the challenges that have been touched on already, just a belief about purpose of education. Where should you get at the end of education? I deal with far too many students who think that it's either business or engineering, or there's some high level purpose to it, but that's the sole purpose rather than a connection or a development. So kind of that just belief about purpose and it's across education is something that I really struggle with. And I know that a lot of educators struggle with as well. I think, as I touched on earlier, that separation from the family, where the school takes the place of the family. I think that's a really hard part for education. We need to engage our parents far more, and our students, that those folks in the community that, just to continue those historical experiences in life, and that knowledge that it can bring. And then the one thing that really just frustrates me is just the format of education and the amount of content. And I think that was touched on already. Like, we're coming up on advanced placement testing, and the amount of knowledge the student has to have at this point is tremendous, but it's very shallow. Is definitely an area that we can improve as educators and education as a whole.
Yeah, great, Everett. You make some great points. The the target being so narrow as far as careers, and not just careers, but very specific few careers that are viewed as success from your years in education. And there could be so much more that the kids could be aspiring to and feeling good about reaching during their educational journey. And it's not. It's like if you don't hit one of these two targets, you haven't done what you were supposed to do. And that's just a shame that we put that kind of pressure on them. Thank you so much, Everett. Rakesh, welcome. We have to have a combination of questions for you because you tick so many boxes within your pillar group. So for your first one, Rakesh, as a professional, do you feel that current education structure has prepared you for real life work? Or if so, how do you see it preparing the youth right now for the world that they're living in? Oh, you're muted. Sorry, you're muted.
Thank you. I was so engrossed in the question and the passion just came out. But thank you, Mick and Archana. My straight answer is no. I think unanimously, all of us professionals feel that the time spent in the schools, colleges are absolutely irrelevant to the professional world. It is no brainer to do research on it. The subjects taught were archaic, dinosaurial. They continue to be like that. And there is a reason for that because what has happened is that the design of education still rests on foundations which are relevant about 100, years ago. They serve the least common denominator principles of the industry and the governments. They designed the system to give them quick talent, which at that time was very important to grow. But I think that entire world has changed so drastically. And all of us, sometimes when we think about these things, the purpose of coming out of an education system was to liberate ourselves from fear and become more confident and prepared to take on the 21st century. What we are all seeing is we are underprepared, extremely anxious, and always constantly unprepared for the VUCA dynamics of the 21st century. So I think very quick summary of the answer is that as a professional, there are serious challenges in the education system. We are all aware of it. What saddens me is that we are really not doing much about it. It's only lip service, talks, discussions, because the changes at the policy level aren't happening. And the other side is that the people who write policies are miles away from education. They are bureaucrats, they are people who are just doing their job. It gets connected to serious ministries. The people who are running the ministries themselves do not have the talent or the skills to run these ministries. We are aware of the problems, which is why I think there is a tectonic shift in the whole education system. It's a transition. And what is the right sweet spot? We are all waiting to see what the world would look like.
Yeah, thank you, Rakesh. I mean, it's some really important things you touched on. People often say the education system's broken, and I disagree. It functions exactly as it was designed, which is to create passive learners who can do repetitive task jobs in a factory model system. Unfortunately, that world no longer exists, and yet we're still teaching kids the same things in the same ways that we learned them when we were young, even though the world we grew up in no longer exists. It's just a shame, and we could be doing so much more. So thank you for those points. You made some really excellent points about that.
Very important point brought up by Rakesh is that whoever is making the policy, they don't have any connection with the education or learners or parents either. So this is something very important, which I think the bringing four pillars together and make it learner centric. We need to listen inputs from the learners and make them the leaders of what kind of education they want, right? That is the only way. And maybe parents, because and maybe job creators directly coming into the loop and telling us like what kind of workforce, not our only workforce, but like what kind of human beings they need at the work as well. So that is very important, like points brought up by Rakesh. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
those impediments to change are very deeply rooted and well funded. And there's a reason why they don't want change. The
Yeah.
system benefits them right now. Why would they want to change it to benefit the masses when it already so greatly benefits the few. That's why, you know, we might have to design around the system as opposed to, you know, take the cumbersome time it'll be to change it from within. Great conversation starters with those points, Rakesh. Thank you so much. Back to round two for Salaj. So we often have self-learners on here, you know, kids who are not working within the school system. And for them, discipline and motivation are difficult, right? Because there's no one driving them, telling them they have to do their homework, or there's not consequences for that at school. For you, if you're, you know, from within the system, how do you keep yourself growing? How do you keep yourself motivated and disciplined? Is it just what you're being told to do, or are you able to separate and say, I still drive myself towards the things that I'm interested in outside of school?
So I think discipline is definitely needed, because if you want to achieve something, you have to keep working at it. So if I were a self-learner, I definitely need to build discipline in order to learn those topics and understand them. But I also think motivation is a key factor in that, because if you have someone pushing you and keep pushing you, like saying the good things about you, like your parents supporting you, it helps you achieve more in that. Like you know that you have someone by your side. It's like you have a friend right next to you. So motivation helps guide and encourage others. So if I were to be a self learner, I definitely would need those two. But like I said, so many people might not have motivation from others, but your motivation could be the sense to achieve something. So if you want to learn this math topic or the science topic, your motivation is like, oh, I want to learn that, and that discipline keeps building on and on once you keep trying to once you keep working at something. Like then you'll say, look how much I achieved when I had this discipline, why can't I do that? Like it all comes down when you keep working and working, and then build that sense of discipline, and you're like resilient.
Excellent, Salaj. You know, I think educators worry about digital learning because they think it's going to replace us. And you made a very key point. A digital platform can never give you that encouragement that a teacher gives you or that your parents give you. It can never give you that sense of like, wow, these people really believe in me and care for me. That's where teachers will always have a level of importance, right? And so that you made a great point in that. It helps you when the people around you motivate you to stay self-motivated and find things that you're interested in and want to learn. Excellent, Salash. Thank you so much for that. Our second round parent question, Sangita, is it's similar to the first one, but I think this is such an important thing with this generation of parents, which there's a lot more helicopter parenting than I've ever seen before in previous generations. What do you think scares parents, and why do you think that so many parents kind of force their expectations upon their kids?
I think what scares parents? So the system scares parents right from the time the child is conceived. You go to the doctor, and from day one, everybody's scaring you about the pregnancy. Everybody's scaring you about everything that could go wrong with the child, and then it continues with birth, right? Just the way women are, kind of talked about in preparation of pregnancy. Here in the US, for example, when I gave birth, I went through midwifery birth, intervention-less, medication-less birth. But when I initially went to the gynecologist, they told me, when you're laboring, you cannot eat anything, because what if you have to have a C-section and we have to give you, whatever the anesthesia that needs to be given. And that made no sense to me. I was like, I need to eat when I'm laboring, right? So basically, what I mean to say is that everything right from the beginning starts off with scarcity mentality and starts off with fear. So nobody is told that the parents have to slow down, have to educate themselves, and have to be in complete awe of this amazing miracle that's going to happen to them. I mean, just the women's body, the way it pushes out the baby. I mean, if that's not a miracle, what else is, right? And then when you hold that baby in your hand and you look at it, and oh my God, like the amount of things that have come together for this being to be there, right? So it's an absolute act of miracle and divinity constantly, and all of that has been taken away. The moment the baby comes, everybody's like, oh, all of this could happen, all of that could happen, let's inject them with 1,000 things. And I was so fortunate to have a a family primary care physician who said, listen, Sangeeta, the only disease that your child will get are the germs that you attract as a mother. So, shifting to faith, shifting to trust, shifting to miracle, right? Nobody tells you those things right from the beginning. And this continues through the way we parent the child. We put them in school. And, from day one, it's like comparison, right? You have to run the fastest. If you don't run faster than everybody else, then you're going to fail. So there is no sense of abundance in the universe, which it actually is, that is ever communicated to anybody, right? There is abundance, there is help, people are always going to be there for you. No, everybody is there to pull the rug off your legs. And so there is always a sense of competition that's inflicted in the parents, and that scares them, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I agree. Like, fear is there from the beginning. I have a 3-month-old at home, so I just bear witness to the miracle of birth and what my wife had to go through that process. But I think too, the fear of technology, of the unknown, of quick and rapid changes, of a future where we're not sure what jobs are going to be available. When you add that to the inherent fear that starts even when you become pregnant, you can see how it's just ramped up in this generation to a whole new degree of fear-based parenting than we've ever had in the past. I think you make a great point that it's always been there. It's rooted in childbirth from the first moments that your child is born, and then it just increases exponentially from there.
Yes, and I think also nobody slows down. And if things have to change, and Rakesh was mentioning about this, everybody talks, but if things have to change, it's that the woman has to be given the utmost importance and significance when she becomes a mother. Because in Sanskrit, in our ancient Indian language, we have a saying, Matru mukhena shikshanam, Matru hastena bhojanam. What comes out of the mother's mouth is education, and what she feeds is real food. And so unless and until we constantly keep comparing that a woman's value is not until she takes that bag and puts money on the table, we as a society are never going to change. I know it's radical, but
Beautiful.
that's where the problem starts.
Beautiful. Yeah, mother's role is
Is
very much of importance, which we need to understand. Beautifully said, Sangeeta. Really love that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I agree that a mom's role is incomparable to anything else in the world as far as how society turns and changes. That a lot of that is rooted in moms, and we don't give them enough credit for any of the things they do. Again, I'm seeing this firsthand right now with my wife, and I'm like, I can't do any of the things you're capable of. I'm just here to be an assistant, a pit crew, a helper, the gatherer of the items that you need to take care of our son in the best way possible. And I'm so grateful to her and to all moms for what they contribute to us and to the world. Thank you, Sangeeta. Everett, your second question was my favorite to answer as an educator, which is if you had the authority to design your own learning space, your own school, what would it look like? What would it include? What would it be like?
I looked at this question when I first started this whole process, having these conversations, I was looking next year at being an educator, an educator teaching physical and health education. Now I'm starting to look more at this from the lens of administration, which I'm going to be doing next year. So it's an interesting shift as I start to think about what do I want my classroom to look like versus what I want a school to look like. I've been blessed to be in physical education most of my life, so I've kind of had free reign to develop my own space, and it's always been kind of an open format with a lot of options for my kids that are developmentally appropriate, and that's it's not necessarily age appropriate, but developmentally appropriate if we look at it from that lens. So younger students and less skilled to higher skilled, and even at my level, again, developmentally appropriate activities and games. So really shifting our minds at first to the developmental levels rather than the age leveling we have. I would love to see us going to developmental levels with students. Something that I've been toying with this year, and it was part of necessity, but it's also an interest of mine, is more flipped and hybrid learning. So using the online world, the whatever technology we have available to present lessons online, as well as bringing that material back into the classroom to support the learning. And it's such an interesting dynamic now, especially as we're back online, seeing only teaching online and the benefits of it, but also the detriments, especially the lack of community, because having students in the school at developmentally appropriate levels and not necessarily age specific levels is really powerful. I'd like to see us shifting in that direction, away from so much of the, you're in third grade, then you're at this age in third grade, at this age in fourth grade. It just, maybe as we move forward developmentally. And then the other piece that I continue to think about, especially moving forward and tackling online learning, hybrid learning, using accessing the internet more, is really teaching to students' interests and desires, not just teaching the content. We talked about the content is very specific, but the more we can engage students in our community and what they really are interested in, rather than in the classes they have to take, we're going to have a much stronger future and a stronger education system. Engaging the parents more with that as well. That all is just going to support education, and it's really going to touch on those life skills that we really need. Where Rakesh was talking about, and you said it as well. Education is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, but it's not developing students and leaders for the world that is here now and that they will experience when they graduate. And we need to really shift in that direction quickly.
Yeah, you make some really great interconnected points, Everett. Like flipped classrooms. These kids carry the history of the world's information in their pocket, yet we're not utilizing it because the teacher's role has been all-knowing dispenser of knowledge, where the kids are just supposed to soak it up and regurgitate it to us. That is such an ineffective model because we have to teach them how to think, how to find resources, how to utilize all that information that's there. And then our role becomes that of mentor, guide, facilitator. And if you use that model, as you're saying, rather than age appropriateness, developmental appropriateness, which happens at different stages for every kid, depending on what they're learning, and even further, interest-based learning. If you figure out some really foundational life skills, mindset skills, and just skill sets in general, you can use their interests, and those are proxies for the skills that you want them to learn, right? As opposed to just let's hammer through our lessons day by day and get through this standards-based curriculum that you'll forget when you're a grown-up anyways. And we can just do so much better. So I love the way you connected kind of all those dots together. It really makes sense to me because I view it very similarly to how you do. Thank you for that, Everett. Rakesh, for your next question, this is a really important one, I think, too. It being in the position that you're in, what skills, aptitudes, qualities do you think current grads of the system are missing? I know there's a lot, but what do you feel that they're missing in terms of future of work skills, which is happening right now already?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I started School of Meaningful Experiences, Mick. There is a serious gap, at least I can speak for the Indian, South Asian, and Asian cultures. I'm fairly sure it will be similar in Western countries as well, because we are getting learners from US and Canada and UK as well, which is very surprising. So the few things that are seriously important in a learner when they come out to the world, which are lacking, and this has been researched and published by various government bodies, private institutions, research centers. The first is a serious lack of critical thinking, which is what you also said, the ability to think and learn how to solve problems rather than having a prescribed algorithmic approach. Creativity is a very big part of that. The second thing is a very important element of collaboration. And I think everybody's talking about how pandemic has taken that away. So this generation coming out is worse off than others because of that. They're not able to connect with people, and without connecting with people, you won't be able to do things. And they are suffering from social anxiety and many more other behavioral issues, which cause them to go in their shell when they should be coming out. The third is a serious lack of communication. And they are very good in writing exams because that's what we are teaching them to do. So they're comfortable sitting down, though there is a lot of fear there. But the process is to do my task, I need to write, and that to regurgitate from memory, and then somebody will grade me and tell me how good I am. So they are unable to practice oral communication because of lack of confidence, because of this branding that they get, that you're a C minus or a D or a A. People who do very well become over arrogant that I have done everything. So there's a serious debate in education that does too much of talent create arrogance, and branded that you're not talented give you a bad confidence. And we are suffering it because in the corporate world, we see the same problem. There are good students from the bottom, but they have no confidence. And the students who are at the top, as measured by the marks, are super arrogant and sometimes don't even want to work. They want to just go in their own way. There's a serious shift in all these things, which is attributed to the word confidence. The last two are curiosity. At some point of time, the ability for the learner to ask why is very important. And that why starts the journey, and the proverbial Alice and the falling down into this beautiful hole, and then a new world emerges, is very important. And they are enjoying Roblox and there's a game I
Minecraft.
used to Minecraft. They love it because it enables their curiosity, creativity, and we know from it's horrifying because it's a bad direction, but we have to bring that into their regular lives. And the last is competence, which in India we call it sakshamta, the ability to get a job from some skill that you have, which is the whole purpose, that we will prepare you so that you can live your livelihood. And that competence is connected to these 6 C's. So we call it the 6 C's framework: confidence, communication, curiosity, creativity, collaboration, and competence, which is the need of the hour. And there are many more, but my focus is these six that I firmly believe are lacking from the education system.
Yeah, Rakesh. This is, I teach fourth grade right now, academic subjects, after having been a technology teacher the last 5 years. It is painful to teach these, to spend their days learning things I know are useless to them. But what I've done is started to teach them Scratch, which is a platform created by MIT along the lines of Roblox and Minecraft. But it's a proxy for teaching like 6 of the skills you just talked about simultaneously. They are critical thinking, decision making, collaborating, using their creativity, their judgment, they're developing their tech skills, their
Yeah.
agency. And one of the reasons they play Roblox and Minecraft is it fulfills the 3 psychological needs that video games fulfill, which is autonomy, relatedness, and competency. Where do
Yeah.
they get that in their regular school day? If you can fulfill those psychological needs in another way, maybe they don't seek to do it in mindless gameplay. Maybe they seek to do it in more active learning, creating, building, and designing, through tech and without tech. And so we're not fulfilling their psychological needs. It's no wonder why they're seeking those things in other places. Excellent. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Rakesh. Um, our third round question, similar to each person, because we're here about the 4 pillars and how they affect one another. So, Solaj, as a learner, what do you think you need from the other 3 pillars, from parents, from educators, from future job creators, to feel empowered and supported in your learning journey?
So from parents, I would definitely need encouragement, love, and definitely criticism. So even if you're a self learner or you go to school, encouragement and love are definitely needed to support your child to do well in academics and do well in extracurriculars and just be happy overall. And I think criticism is a very important concept children should learn now, because in the real world, when you grow up, you will definitely receive a lot of criticism, and you might not know how to handle it. So you have to learn how to handle criticism in a positive way now, so you can be prepared in the future for what is to come. And from an educator, I want guidance. I want you to guide me on how you learn these concepts. I want you to teach me. I want you to give me your knowledge so I can understand these concepts and apply them in the real world. And for an employer, I would definitely just want a job after I graduate. Like, I'm too young right now to ask for a job because I don't know what I'm gonna do. Hopefully it's something hopefully it's something I'm interested in, but right now I want a job after I graduate. It's gonna start my career. So, but yeah, those are the 3 things I need from those pillars.
Excellent, Solaj. You make a great
Yeah.
point about criticism. You are going to have face a lot of criticism and rejection in your adult life. Hopefully, if it's coming from your parents or from thoughtful educators, it's constructive criticism, right? It's ways to help you reflect on your learning or mistakes or missteps you might have made so that you can learn from them. Because I don't think we don't teach this enough. Making mistakes is a positive thing. It's what teaches you to learn. It's what gives you resilience. It's what builds your ability to make it through adversity, so that you don't constantly choose the easiest path. And so I think those are some great points. If I was hiring, I would still hire you at 13. You're a very savvy young man, and I think pursue something that you love and interest and that you are passionate about and feel purpose for, and you'll never work a day in your life if
That
you do that. You
that's
know,
what I loved, Salaj. I can hire you any day, like however younger you are, because the point you made about criticism is something which not many young learners are thinking, like to just expect this from parents or system or like educators or someone, like if you are ready to take the challenge and you are ready to listen where you are lacking, or like your criticism, I think you are definitely working towards improving that and like taking it very positively. So wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, like in scouting, we have to write long essays to prove how we are capable of achieving that next rank. And my dad actually grades the essays, so he's definitely harder on me. So I have to take all that criticism from him. And even if I might not like it, I know he's doing the right thing for me. So I
Wonderful.
take that criticism in a positive way and I try to change it so it can fit my standards but also his. So it's like it's
Wonderful.
mostly for all the scouts and people out in this world who are trying to achieve something.
Yeah. Great.
excellent, Salash. Thank you so much. Sangita, for your third round question, for your children, like who are the children that you want to give to the world? Like, how do you want your children to fit into the world, and what role do you feel like you play in that learning journey?
Yeah, so the children that I want to give into the world are the ones who are perfect for whatever the challenges that they might be facing. It can be never about what I think that they will be facing, but they are ready to kind of like understand whatever is it that they have to do to face the challenge. And I can never predict that right now. What I mean by that is it could be that the challenge that they face is that there is absolutely nobody to grow food, right? But they don't have any kind of distinction in terms of labor or like any kind of pride, like how Rakesh mentioned, right? That the learning that they have had so far has not given them that ego to roll up their sleeves and grow food. If they have to be a farmer, they have to be a farmer. So that's the kind of child that I would like to give to the world, one who can truly meet the challenges, one who can coexist with environment, nature, and who can also coexist with everybody else, because we are a product of the society. So that's the child I would like to give. As parents, I feel like we first need to understand that we are here to facilitate and to model, and we are the first experts. No other doctor, no other teacher, no other great professor in any Ivy League college knows better about my child than I do, simply because I have been with her all through her life, and I truly know, in many ways, what encourages her, what discourages her, and how to be there for her when she needs me. And I think as parents, it's important that we are gatekeepers, right? We don't let all the deficiencies of our ancestors pass through, but at the same time, we also make sure that ancestral knowledge that's significant for nature, for their own, self, what should I say, mental peace, all of that stuff is also passed on. So as parents, it's very important that we make that balance. And to Salaj's point, right, always make sure that we have a discussion around everything. It could be criticism, it could be positive feedback, but our children know us as those that they can approach no matter what. Like, they are the ones, we are the ones that they come to when they know that they've screwed up, and they know that we are here to have a discussion around it instead of like constantly putting them down, because that's what I think the factory or the school system has made parents into. We are like constantly holding the stick on behalf of the system, whereas we don't take the effort to actually know who the child is. And the biggest thing in terms of my own parenting journey, whatever is it that you ask of your child, make sure that you look into the mirror and know that you're doing it, or at least you're working on it, even whether it's health, whether it's food, whether it's talking well, whether it's studying, whether it's being ambitious. Anything that you say, they're going to point their fingers and say, hello, why are you saying this to me? So be models all along. As long as you keep focusing on your own improvement, your own education, your children are meant to be successful. Your children are meant to be what the future needs them to. Yeah.
Absolutely. Modeling is number one, Sangeeta. Like, I had to have so many parents when I was a tech teacher come to me and they're saying, Mr. Donahue, I don't know why my child is, wait, hold on one sec. My friend's messaging me. They will never get off their devices. Oh my goodness, my girl is great. And they're asking me why their child is so addicted to their devices. And I'm like, I could take a picture or video of you right now and show you why they're doing that. It's because they are watching what you're doing.
Yeah.
And regardless of what you say, your children will emulate what you do.
Yeah.
And so modeling is key, not just from an educator standpoint, but if you're someone who tells your kids to have good manners as you're yelling at the waiter across the way that they messed up your order, trust me, your kids are going to yell at waiters. They're not going to listen to the example you're telling them. They're going to watch and follow the example that you show them. So that's a really important point. And the other one, just skills that are agnostic of change, right? So it's not, I'm going to teach you how to solve this problem so much as I'm going to teach you how to be a problem solver.
Yeah.
So whatever problems come your way, you have the same mentality to overcome them and not be so specific to one task or one thing that comes their way, but just an overall sense of, let me help you to, face all challenges that come your way and be there to support you. Excellent, Sangeeta. Thank you so much. Everett, for your third one as an educator, what support do you need from the other three pillars? What support do you need from students, from parents, and from eventual job creators to implement the kind of changes that you feel are important?
From students, number one is show up. And if you're not here, we can't help you, right? We can't develop, we can't teach, we can't learn. So just showing up, planning to make mistakes, and when you make mistakes, learn from them. But also pursuing your own passion and not just listening to your parents and what they're doing. I mean, you need to respect and love your parents, and they're great models and role models. But the groups that I work with, they are so often focused on, my parents told me I need to do this, therefore I need to do this. But what are you really passionate about? What are you excited about? Oh, well, I'm something else. So those are things that really the importance of pursuing your own passions, your own interests, not just those of your parents. As parents, I love Sangeeta's response of modeling, and that really goes for everybody across the board. We need to model what good learning is, what we expect of our students, what we expect of society. If we're not modeling it ourselves, no one's going to follow that. And then also as parents, just engaging with the educators, engaging with the material, also not assuming that the way you taught or the way you were taught is the best way. I run into that a lot. And the same with policymakers and professionals. Yes, education, you were taught a certain way. There's a saying, the problem with education is everybody's gone through it. And everybody was taught differently. And that doesn't necessarily work best for the current learners. For those in the policy and professional realms, really pushing harder on what it is you need. We continue to hear in education, you need reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's it. Well, those are basic skills, and obviously you need a base level of reading, writing, math, but there are so many more important skills. And as an educator, we continue to see the focus on base level skills that, as Rakesh said, don't apply to business. They don't apply to life. They don't apply to working. They aren't the skills that are needed for our students moving forward. And for other educators, we also need to come together and really think about what is the purpose of education? What are we really trying to achieve when a student has gone through a 12-year program or a 10-year program or a 4-year program, depending on where you're at? What is it that student should look like when they've come through? And have some clear ideas on that are different, even different than we learned. And we need to continue to learn and unlearn that, and then relearn and move forward, getting away from some of those things that we've already been doing.
Yeah, I really like what your comments about the kids resonates with me because of, I see so many kids who, when I ask them, what problems do you want to solve or what do you want to become later in life? And it's clear that they're a second grader telling me they want to be a pediatrician. That's what their parents want them to be. I asked the same girl, I'm like, I know that your mom wants you to be a pediatrician. What do you want to be? And she said, a comedian. And I said, well, luckily, all the things you're going through right now are going to make for a great comedy when you grow up. So continue to study to be a doctor if that's something you're interested in, but know that you can do both. And just, letting kids know that when my child was born, my students asked me, Mr. D, what do you want Zach to be when he grows up? And I said, happy. I'm not going to dictate what his job is. He's going to tell me what he wants to be. And it's up to my wife and me to support him in that journey however we can. Thank you so much for that, Everett. Rakesh, for your last one, working so many years as you have in different industries, how do you think you can support creating a learner-led education system as opposed to the student-directed one or the teacher and policy-directed one that we have now?
So this is a question I'm obsessed with, which is why I started School of Meaningful Experiences. It is my way to at least start looking at this much more carefully. And there are structural issues which I will not focus on. But my vision is to, there are 3 or 4 foundational principles I work with at School of Meaningful Experiences, which I would like to share with all of you. Hopefully, some of you listening and all of you may implement them in your institutions. The first thing is, we believe, all of us at SOME, that the learner is the center of our focus, which means the learner also should be given a lot more respect and voice than what they are getting. If you look at the education system, everybody, including parents, believe that they know what's good for the learner. The policymakers, the parents, and the teachers also. Teachers have the attitude that I know what to teach you. You don't know what you want. We don't believe that. I think this generation is super smart. I mean, Salaj is a great example. He's right there in front of us, and what an amazing articulate person. Super confident, and there are many more Salajes out there, but they are made to do things which they don't want to do. And the first thing is, let the learner decide their path. Now that brings the next challenge, that if the learner decides to choose the path, you suddenly have a problem in structure of education, which is very cohort based and very fixed. So then you have to design an institution which allows the learner to choose their path, and it will be very different from many others. And then the third path is, you need very nice guides. So we don't call our teachers at School of Meaningful Experiences as teachers or faculty. We call ourselves as guides, because we ourselves don't know what we are doing. We are learning. It's a very new world for us. And we guide each other, they guide us, and we guide them. So what I have done, and I'd request all of you to do, is focus on these 3 principles. That one, make the learner decide what they want. Even if they say, I want to be a stand-up comedian or a painter, doesn't matter. Because very soon they'll realize this is not what they want. It's a journey which will take them. But it's important for them to realize it. And our job as guides is to be a guide. Guide means, hey, have you thought, if you go left, you might see this, and if you go right, you might see it. And let them decide when they go left and right. And we again guide them in that process. So we are a GPS of sorts. But the power of the GPS is that they can turn wherever they want, and the GPS will recalibrate everything for them. That's very critical. And the third thing is that at the end of the day, this learner may end up in a Bachelor of Comedy. And now we have a big problem that, okay, what do we do with this person? Where do we get the job for him? So then you align the industry, and there's a great job in being a comedian. There are clubs and people who would want professional comedians to come and entertain, because it's an industry. The entertainment industry may absorb them. And that's what I think we all collectively have to do to make this education slightly better, less toxic. And I'm not saying that we should stop the other education system. There are some people who value it. I come from that system. I've done reasonably well and have high respect for that system. And there are some people who would always go for that system because of the certificate and the less risk, high return that it gives them. This model is high risk, low returns, because it's going to be built over time. And we have to let learners choose and the parents choose which side they want to go.
Excellent, Rakesh. Archana and I talk about this a lot, which is creating various pathways for kids, interest-based. There can be structure within that. It's just scaffolded and it's paced at their own pace and based on their own interests. And again, that shifts the role from dispenser of knowledge to guide, mentor, supporter. And I would even add, making it more two-way. I felt like I could really teach my kids about interpersonal communication, something they don't know or understand because of their way of communicating. But everything I taught them in technology, they would become better than me at it sometimes within a week, sometimes within 2 years. And I relish those opportunities. Now you teach me. Let's have this be a two-way. You sometimes will be the teacher and I will be your student. And how empowering that is when we make it more of a two-way giving and taking relationship than just I give you knowledge, you spit it back to me. Excellent. Thank you so
Yeah,
much to
I
our
would
panel.
I would also add
Really,
that, yeah, I would also add that, as Rakesh rightly said, that make them the honor of their life. They know, like, if we believe in their intellect, which they are like very intelligent person in a small body, which we think that they don't know or they understand anything. So they are the honor of their life, and then just ready to accept their definition of failures. Like, we have created all this definition of which is not fitting in the system is failure, which I think totally wrong concept or perception of ours, that like ready to be like seeing their failures and let them learn from that. And I think that is going to bring a beautiful personality, a beautiful human out of them, I think. So wonderful.
yeah. Once again, our panel with just astonishing answers across the board. It's so lovely each week to see the different answers that we get, again, based on your individual and unique experiences, but those commonalities that our really intelligent young learners seem to gravitate towards. Give me trust, give me freedom, guide me and help me. And, our parents wanting to model and show their kids a better way. And from our educators who, want to create better opportunities for the kids that they care so much about and put so much time into. And then our job creators and policymakers, just being mindful of the things that have not worked in the past and how we can change those moving into the future and benefit this generation. So excellent job from all of you as usual. Just a great and inspiring conversation. I'm going to kick it back over to Archana now, who's going to hit you with some rapid fire questions. So be ready, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Mick. As always, as like this is amazing, interaction we have every once in 2 week, and really so much looking forward to every week, every other week, to meet all of you and get some, uh, wonderful suggestions, wonderful views, and like how do we co-create the things what we want to work together. So wonderful. Sorry for the today's, like, my camera and like messy background thing, because I landed in US and I'm like just last minute arrangement of this workstation here for me. But uh, so rapid fire questions are like kind of like Mick has always said that she is a very tough examiner, which so it's exam time for everyone, and the first question always goes for some observation skills we have on the voiced poster. And I think we have been mentioning in different episodes that how do we like transition, or how we keep transitioning from the conventional meanings of our words to like where we want to go towards for the recreating education in a new way. And we are saying that couple of words which we know, we want to move from that to the other side of the spectrum. And I just want to ask everyone, like, we want to move from leadership mentality to where, like, how do we, like, where do we transition from leadership to conventional leadership to where, like, I think you can cheat. That is right there on the poster if you haven't observed it yet. But uh, anyone is answering? Sangeeta, you said, right?
Yeah, I see laddership. I'm totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's it. Yes, yes, wonderful. Yeah, and where do we want to move from to growth mindset to which mindset we want to transition from?
Prosperity is what I see. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this is something I find, I find it very interesting, like how means we worked on creating this poster where we want to transition from one spectrum to another one. And this is a first question, which is a surprise question I ask every episode. There are few questions on rapid fire round, which is for everyone, all the panelists. And the first question here is, tell us one thing we all, like, you want to stop, start, and continue in the current education system in just one word, or one sentence? Anyone
Can I
can.
go? Can I go first?
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
I think we should stop tests for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and start and continue.
Start and continue. My take would be more fun and more longer times. I think we have shortened education to a very narrow area, so elongate it because lifespans are also increasing now.
Mm. Yeah, wonderful. And the first answer is, I think, very much common to, like, all the panelists. Stop testing, stop grading, stop. So yeah, who wants to go next?
I
I'll
can
jump
go
in.
next.
Oh, go ahead, Slash.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, something I would like to stop is limiting children to only specific methods on what to do and how to solve these problems. Something I would like to start is like I'm kind of bothered that this hasn't started yet in my district, but in specific districts, they don't allow you to take extra courses outside in the summer that will count as credits for like high school. So it's kind of now all squeezed in at one bunch, which can cause stress and anxiety. So I wish like districts like mine would implicate a method where you can learn that curriculum over the summer, and then you can learn something new in high school, so everyone can save time and it can relieve stress and all that anxiety. Something I would like to continue is just how the curriculum is structured. I really like how they explain it in like very smoothly, and they take their time to explain it so most kids can understand it, and there's obviously a lot of different methods they share, so even if you don't understand one, you can always go to the other.
Yep. Sangeeta?
Yes, I would like to stop for all education institutions or everyone to look at learning as a means towards, a college or an outcome, right? Learn for the sake of learning, learn for the sake of having fun, learn for the sake of discovering yourself. I would like to start to have more play throughout. I think like we always think the childhood ends at a certain point, and once you're in eighth grade or ninth grade, when you start high school, then you suddenly become an adult, and now you have to start thinking about all the serious things. That's why we always ask, what do you want to do when you grow up? But I see that my 16 and 14-year-olds still want to play. My 16-year-old is still climbing trees, and I still have a child within me. So play has to be a part of all of our learning throughout. And what would I like to continue to do? With the current education system, I think we need to all constantly keep questioning, never stop questioning what is going on, and really choose to, put ourselves in discomfort zones with every decision that we make.
Great. Everett?
I think Rakesh said it. Stop standardized testing. Just full stop. It's yeah, for all the right reasons. And then to start, I want to see more. Well, do start and grow are kind of the same. I want to see more of not standards, like standards-based grading, and as Sangeeta said, more interest-based learning for the students. The more the options to really focus on the future rather than the standard core subjects we always provide. Continue grow. I want to see, as Sangeeta said, the play, bring more of that back in, and then really the performing arts, all the non-core subjects that often get pushed to the side when we talk about learning.
Great. Yep. The second rapid fire question is, one thing you unlearn or want to unlearn?
I can go. I think one thing I would like to unlearn is being over competitive. So like after playing years of basketball and like I want to like keeping my grades like where I want them to be, I've kind of gained a sense of how I'm over competitive. So I always want to be ahead of my competition. So I think that's not really a healthy habit for me. So I want to learn how to be not over competitive, but like learn to accept that it's okay, some people are better than you because you have your own unique qualities.
Great, Salaj. Really impressed with your answer. Who is going next?
I can go. One thing that I have unlearned all throughout my journey as an unschooling parent is that all learning is just connecting the dots. And that has been the most wonderful experience for me and for my own unlearning. Starting with, a young toddler coming to the kitchen and constantly putting her hands into the masala dabba leads to learning to cook, leads to learning to, get interested in everything chemistry, which leads to learning to manufacture her own, beauty products, to her becoming an entrepreneur, and now so much more. I can just go on and on. So learning is not like siloed at all, and the fact that we can keep to continue to trust the learner, like I think Everett said, that learning primarily belongs to the learner, is the biggest thing that I have unlearned through my journey.
Great. Rakesh. Yeah.
Go ahead, Everett. I'll go next after you.
All right. I continue to unlearn traditional education. I mean, my training was in traditional teaching and how to do it, and I continue to find myself falling back into familiar patterns. So I continue to kind of push the envelope and focus on focus on that learning journey rather than the discrete skills of education that we often talk about when we're talking about what we want to change in education.
My answer would be I really want to unlearn, and I haven't been able to do it, is to compare with someone else. And I see that happening throughout. If you stop comparing, the results are amazing, but I haven't been able to do it because it's so conditioned and ingrained in me. So I hope I unlearn comparing, and it happens in the education system as
Very,
well.
very honest, Rakesh. And the third question, I think probably Rakesh has a very simple answer or no answer to it, is that if you were to write a book, what the title would be. And he has already published 4 books. So I don't know what is the fifth one, but you can still share. But
Yeah, actually, I hope I write it. It's been there on my mind, but my fifth book would probably be on. I think all of us are getting conflicted between various concepts. So there's a concept one, that be competitive so that you move ahead, and then the concept two is learn not to be competitive. So the learners are getting conflicted. So I'd love to write a book on the whole balancing element of education, that we should teach them that there is a relevance to apply concept one in a certain concept or context, and the other one in somewhere else.
yeah,
So a balancing act is what I would focus on.
okay. Great. Sangeeta?
Yeah, I think I have actually 2 books that I'm hoping to start writing soon. I belong to a writing group, and everybody has been like, you better start. So, one thing is, I think one title would be My Experiments with Parenting Without School, the Good, the Bad, and Everything in Between. And another one is the history of talcum powder in India, because when my older one was born, she was, dark skinned child, and everybody was like, put some talcum powder on. And I was like, what is wrong with all of you? Look at my baby. She's so beautiful. I'm going to kill you all. So ever since then, I've been like, where did this obsession towards fairness and fairness creams and talcum powder start? And I have to do my research and write something about
Wow. Very interesting, Sangeeta.
I'll buy at least 1,000 copies of that
it.
book
Okay,
and
okay,
read it
good,
all
good.
in my life.
Well, that's a great
Well, you
motivation.
got the publisher and the promoter right here. Everett and Salaj.
I'll jump in. I have an interest in classroom management, so I'd want to do something. I was trying to figure out what kind of a title I would have, but something on classroom management, focusing on student relationships and developing student relationships, and managing and organizing a teaching classroom, because that's one thing that is hardly ever taught in education, and it's so critically important that we have positive relationships to build, to do anything that we're talking about.
Salaj?
If I were to publish a book, I would call the book "Get Your Bucket." Basically, it's similar to "Take Your Shot." So, like, kind of related to basketball. If you have an opportunity, you should snag it right away and get that, because you don't know when that opportunity will come around again.
One request I'll just make for next questions, if we can be very specific to one sentence or one word, because we are running out of time, and it's like getting over 10-13 minutes uh, from an hour. So the fourth question is meaning of success in one word and meaning of happiness for you in one word.
I can go. Success is being true to myself, and happiness is absolutely no comparisons.
I think success is to strive for greatness, and happiness is healthy.
Mm. Mm.
Mine would be success is a journey, happiness is an illusion.
Okay. Everett?
Uh, Success is joy. Happiness is a belief.
Oh, wonderful. I always quote this that Mick is very smart educator and he combined two questions in one always, like in the first episode is success is happiness and that's all, you know.
I cheated a little bit. She asked what was each, and I'm like, for me, success is happiness.
Yeah. The next question and last question for like common question for everyone is what common practice or belief as a collective community we need to unlearn?
I think a common practice or belief many people think of is assuming people ability to do well based on their test scores in colleges they go to.
Hmm. Wow, great, Salaj. You are so like impressive, you know, learner.
Uh,
Sangeeta?
yes, what can be measured is the only thing that can be of value. There is most of the things that cannot be measured are what are of true value in life.
Yes, yes, great. Rakesh and Everett.
This is a tough one. I still am cracking my brains, but I think I'll pick one based on one of the books I read on Malcolm Gladwell. I think talent is overrated. That's what
Mm,
I picked from that book.
mm,
I'll leave it here for the audience.
yeah. Everett.
I think one thing we need to learn is if I disagree with you, what you are saying in your belief, how do I say this? I'm saying this wrong. We need to rethink how we disagree and are in conflict with others. That just because I disagree with you doesn't mean that we don't have a positive, healthy relationship.
Mm, yes, yes, very true. Yep. Great. I think everyone has answered that. So now a specific question to learner. What is your favorite time pass, Salaj?
I like to play basketball in my time pass.
Okay. Parent, very interesting one, Sangeeta. One habit your children hates most about your parenting.
I take too many photos.
Too many photos, yes.
Just stop it enough.
Yep. Now you need permission from your children to, you know, capture them. So yes, and put it on the social media. Yep. Uh, Educator, Everett, one thing you absolutely hate, but you still have to do it on a day-to-day basis as an educator.
Grading.
Yes, very obvious. And for the last pillar, Rakesh, the one absolutely must have skill, you have listed many of them anyway, but one absolutely must have skill which you can't compromise when you are working or recruiting for your team, or you know, like for as a from the learner's perspective or professional's perspective, what is one absolutely must have skill which you
It has to be communication for me.
yes. Wow, great. Great, thanks everyone, and like for this amazing discussion. And Mick and I are so blessed and you know fortunate to listen to all of the wonderful and amazing panelists, all this insights and beautiful answers and views and their things which they want to share, and how do we co-create the new education system as we have been talking. Would love to do something in this domain, like not just sticking it to the podcast series, but how do we start implementing with all the views and ideas we are getting from this panel. I would love everyone to come together, and how do we start co-creating this together. Mick, you wanted to add something, and just
Yeah, I just want to add to what you were saying. Just want to thank all of you. I always leave here inspired by the answers each week for different reasons. And it's no different this week. I think, you know, your unique perspectives and the experiences that you bring of your own into these questions and into this forum always leave us with a lot to think about and a lot to dig into. And I appreciate all of you, and I'm inspired by all of you for your answers and your input. Salaj, man, wow. So, like, I know I was smart when I was your age. I don't think I was at the quite articulation and depth of level of thought that you have as a young man. So your parents are doing a great job. You're doing a great job, and keep along those paths. And just thank you to everybody else. And Archana, thank you to you as well, as always.
Thank you. And I'm so confident that every learner we have met on this panel or anyway otherwise out, they are so smart and so clear in their thoughts. Why don't we give all the authority for like to them to design their own learning? Like why as an adult we are all involved, still involved to the most important thing in their life, which is their like learning and creating their own path. So wonderful. Thanks a lot again. Have a beautiful day and beautiful night, everyone. And I will see you next week again. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
You all. Yeah. Bye.